Pulling my phone out of my pocket, I called Dolores again. When the phone began ringing, I said, "Come on, pick up the phone." As her voicemail message started, I ended the call. Because of being drained, I couldn't come up with a plan, so I curled up in bed and drifted off to sleep. I closed my eyes and opened them in an ancient graveyard, with the earthy smell of a freshly dug grave permeating the night air. Standing in front of the ivy-covered, carved marble structure with 3 columns on the front of the crypt, shining in the moonlight. While my attention was on the beautiful structure, I walked up to get a closer look. The columns had carved beautiful women and ferocious monsters and were topped with crowned owls on each column's capital. Then I noticed a dim red light coming from a small glass window on an enormous door. Likewise, the window's design also featured the same stunning women and terrifying beasts that were carved onto the columns. As I drew closer to the door, the moonlight was glistening on a doorknob that was made from some type of black stone. I reached out to grab the knob when an owl screeched and flew from the perch above the doorway. I ducked as it continued its nocturnal journey, flying past my head. A cool breeze from its powerful wings brushed the side of my face. My whole body trembled while my heart pounded out of my chest. A visit from Strix can't be good. Hello, inkblots and aetherlings, and welcome to Aether and Ink, a storytelling podcast where we explore the arts, both mystical and literary. I'm your host, Penelope Hartley, and joining me today is author ML Claxon. Hello, ML.
Hello, everyone.
How are you doing today?
I'm surviving. Everything's nice and cool here in Kentucky.
Oh, I imagine so. It is Yule today, isn't it?
It is, and I'm trying my best to show a little Yuletide spirit.
I you know what? I had this outfit picked out, and I was like looking for, even like the antler headband, and I
Yeah.
couldn't find a thing. Like I felt so bad. So oh
Mm,
wait, here I have a little box, a poinsettia box.
mm.
We'll just put that as a little a little focal point for me right there. So ML has said that he would grace us with the first tarot draw. We had Chris Ole join us on the first show, who was a tarot reader, and he did draws then. But this is the first official interview draw, tarot card draw. So ML, would you like to take it away?
Okay. Well, first off, within the story of Deadcaster, it really at the beginning starts with the main character, Devin, is taking a class on how to read tarot cards. And he's being asked to draw 3 cards. And he is kind of complex because the first card that he pulls is the tarot card. And then the second card he pulls is the death card. Then his third card is the lover card. And this really complexes him as to what the meaning of these 3 cards could be for his life. So as the story goes along, he kind of feels like that maybe his life has turned into the 10 of Swords. And if anyone knows about the 10 of Swords, it's not a card that you really want to be pulling from a tarot deck, because the imagery is someone laying face down with 10 swords sticking out of their back. But as his story goes along, he discovers that he's more of the magician. Then, as the story goes along, his heart, he's feels more like the Three of Swords. And some people see this as a bad omen, but this is my birth card, so I do not see it as a bad omen. But it really represents him and his two amigos that assist him on his journey. And then in the end, he ends up being what I consider the fool. He's on a journey. He is going to places unknown. He's having to take faith in what his journey is all about. And he doesn't really have time to even look down to see where the path is. He's just having to follow his heart and his instincts. And as you can see from his backpack, he doesn't have much to travel with, so he's traveling very lightly. So those are the tarot cards that really, to me, sum up the story of the dead caster. So, Penelope, was there anything else that you would like me to discuss about the tarot?
If you want to just pull a general card and see what we get,
Okay.
that would be fine too. But I love that interpretation. I thought that was great. It sounds like a very difficult journey for your main character. As I was reading, I've noticed that that Three of Swords, the brokenheartedness, that's definitely a trait your main character and my main character from Dechura's Requiem share. Having been betrayed or having been a victim of emotional, and in Sebastian's case, physical trauma.
Yeah.
We do put our characters through it, don't we?
Yeah. I said sometimes that I oftentimes have to make sure that I'm feeling really good when I'm writing, because I could just, if I'm not feeling good, off with their head.
You go G.R.R. Martin on your characters.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And I really don't like killing off my characters, but I have been known to do that.
Yeah.
So the card that I have pulled.
Let's see. Oh, the Page of Rollins. And
to me, from the look of the cards, the rods is really giving me those magical wand vibes, and he is having to call out to the universe to let the universe know, like, hey, help, you put me into this mess, now come on and give me a little bit of help.
Okay. I love that. Right here, right now. Insistent.
Right.
The wand's energy is always so dynamic as well and magical. That's a good card. Okay, so let's see how that plays out in today's show. If I end up yelling, nobody should be surprised.
Okay.
So, no, I'm just kidding. Almost. I full disclosure, I was born with a full moon in Aries, so screaming is kind of in my wheelhouse. Might explain the cover of my book, my recent workbook too.
But it's kind of ironic that you remind me a lot of my sister, because she's born November the 1st. So
Oh yeah. A little
mm,
almost spook baby. That's why I like El Dia de los Muertos. It's still Halloween on November 1st. I'm very fond of
yeah,
that holiday for that reason. Okay, well, today is Yule, like I mentioned before,
yeah.
and I know that you are a practicing pagan. So I wanted to
Mhm.
ask you, how do pagans and how does paganism celebrate the winter solstice? If you wouldn't mind filling us in on some
Well,
of the backstory
yeah.
and maybe the rituals.
Well, Yule is a has its roots in Germanic folklore and history, and it is all about, they were going through the darkest times of the year, and
Mhm.
Yule marks the rebirth of the sun.
Okay.
So okay, and you could kind of see a similarity on how other religions could have taken the rebirth of the sun and changed it slightly. you know,
A little
it's
bit.
it's that the sun, it's a hope that the sun will be coming back, so that all those long winter nights will soon be over, and it'll be time to start planting crops again, in hopes that that you've stored enough food to make
Mm,
it through the winter.
right. Right. That reminds me of the story of the grasshopper and was it ants? The grasshopper fiddled while the ants were saving all of the food stores. So by the
Yeah,
time winter showed up, the grasshopper hadn't done any sort of preparation, was freezing
yeah,
and starving, and the ants had plenty, so they let him in. He played his fiddle for them while they all survived the winter.
yeah.
So what are some of the traditions that go along with? I know that you say Yule, you think immediately of the Yule log.
Yeah.
Um,
There is the Yule log. Plus, a lot of pagans celebrate a feast. In certain tradition, they're called bloats. You know,
mhm,
it is a way of basically giving thanks for the food that was able to be stored,
mhm,
and that they have enough to survive the winter. Uh, it's also a time of, bringing evergreens into
mhm,
the Germanics, of course, would bring evergreens into their homes. They would light, candles, you know, to represent the light returning into the world.
yeah.
I myself, uh, my sister was like, "Aren't you putting up a Christmas tree?" So I have
Oh,
I don't know if you can see it. I have my Charlie Brown
that
Christmas
that
tree.
is a Charlie. Oh my God, that's perfect. I love it.
Uh,
A story that still
so,
speaks to children 50 years later. That's such, oh, I need to go watch that. Get me in the holiday spirit for sure. That's
so
great.
my sister is like, the Christmas freak, where, weeks
Mhm.
before Thanksgiving, she's already planning on how to make her house have a one or two Christmas trees in every room.
Um, so Mariah Carey
And
visits her every Christmas,
yes,
essentially. Yeah, it's funny.
so
I'm
she shamed me.
she shamed you.
Yeah,
It's hard to be like, I mean, if you're gonna put up a Christmas tree, the Charlie Brown Christmas tree is, an obviously amazing choice. I love
well,
that. I love all
I have another Christmas tree.
Mm-hmm.
I can't show it right now, but I have another Christmas tree that my sister doesn't technically consider a Christmas
Oh,
tree. It's black, and
Oh,
You know,
okay.
and a lot of people used to buy them at Walmart during the Halloween time and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
it,
All
it's a
right.
black
Yep.
Christmas,
It's a
and it's a
goth
black.
tree.
It sits near the our pagan altar, and it has
Mhm.
lots of like the skull imagery, like from
Yeah.
Dia de los Muertos, hanging on it, and
It,
crows.
oh, so it screams, I want to be festive, but I also am
Uh,
goth. So I love that.
right. My sister, when she comes into our house, when she passes by the altar area, she
She really. I
I,
guess if
I
she's,
I
yeah,
see nothing.
you're the nightmare and she's the Christmas. Is that how that
Yes,
works? What you're asked?
I'm the Jack Skeleton.
That I can see for sure. I love that. Okay. So well, thank you for telling us a little bit about Yule. There's a lot of different traditions that, thanks to the internet, I have become aware of in the last like decade or so. I'd love to do some more research at some point. And there's so many like we have Santa Claus, which is very Coca-Cola, red, white, and blue, but other cultures have a sort of an underside to Christmas celebrations with like Krampus, and I'm not sure what
Mhm.
the horse skull in Wales represents, but that one is one I definitely need to check out at some point. But just all of the
Mhm.
different like holiday traditions out there, and I mean, it being like the darkest night of the year, you can see why people would kind of want to stay away from already dark, add to the darkness. Not the Germans though. The Germans were just like, yeah,
Mm.
it's just dark out there. They
You
German,
know,
yeah.
a lot of the Krampus was kind of like the opposite of Santa Claus, where
I think
Santa
so,
was
yeah.
bringing presents to the good little boys and girls. Krampus was bringing the switches to the
That's
to
yeah,
the
yeah. I mean, it's that whole like that balance, right? Like, and it's like, wait, we need that. We need
yeah.
some sort of like balance out. Like, it can't. I mean, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe we don't need to scare children.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
released that video of the Krampus. I think wasn't that in Sweden? The Krampus like parade that was happening. Do you remember that? I love like the
Yeah.
festivities that like people outside of America do some amazing like festivities and stuff like that for winter. Yeah, I need to travel
Mhm.
more. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm babbling a little
Mm.
bit. Let's get back on track here. So next I'm going to put you through our first official story spark. And story sparks are like another word game where I will give ML a series of requests for adjectives, nouns, proper nouns, abstract concepts, things like that. And he is going to give me an example of those things. And then I am going to fill in the blanks for a story that I have written. And then I will read that story, filling in the blanks with ML's word choices. So, ML, are you ready for the first official story sparks?
Yes, I am.
Yes, you good. I was like, please say you're ready. Okay. All right. Let's see. I need an adjective. Are you writing it down?
Yeah, you kind of froze. Yeah, you've kind
Oh,
of
sorry.
froze there for a second. So
Oh,
you need
sorry. Do you have an adjective for
okay.
me?
You need it.
Yep. Just whatever first thing
Okay.
that comes to mind.
Okay.
All right. You have to say it out loud, though, because I have to type it in.
All right.
What's your first adjective?
Clearly.
Okay.
Clearly.
Proper noun.
A proper noun. Bunny.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Abstract concept noun.
An abstract concept noun. Um, philosophy.
Ooh, okay. That actually works really well. Okay, I need an adjective.
An adjective. Quickly.
Okay. And a type of government.
Authoritarian.
All right, an adjective.
An adjective. Trying to think of the ones that I'm being told constantly that I use too often.
Yes, those are the best adjectives.
Okay. Slowly.
Slow. Okay, and a name.
Peter.
Peter. Plural noun, magical beings.
Plural. Fairies.
Okay. Plural noun.
Just a plural noun.
Mm-hmm.
Forest.
And a place.
Cave.
All right. Adjective.
Dark.
Ooh. Another adjective.
Eerie.
All right. A proper noun.
A proper noun. Let's go with dragon.
Okay. All right. An environmental.
Gotta put a dragon on it.
Put a dragon on it. That's right. All right. An environmental feature noun.
An environmental feature noun. Geyser.
I spelled geyser wrong. Plural noun. Type of symbol.
Talisman.
Talisman. And an emotion.
Excitement.
Noun, a group of people.
A noun, a group of people.
Mm-hmm.
Protesters.
And an adjective.
An adjective. An adjective. How about exuberant?
Ooh. That's a good one. I don't know how to spell that. All right. No. I need a noun.
A noun. Cat.
Ooh. Body part. Symbolic.
A symbolic body part. Nose.
Plural noun.
Eyes.
Okay, and an adjective. Tons of adjectives in this one. Bring your adjective dictionary. Show what you're doing.
Heavy.
Okay. That's good. Abstract concept.
An abstract. You kind of cut out an abstract.
Oh, sorry. Abstract concept.
An
Noun.
abstract concept. An abstract concept noun. Religion.
Okay, we need a sensory adjective.
Sight.
Okay, so now we need two opposing forces, like black or white, yin or yang.
Good and evil.
Good and evil. As the natural, a natural phenomenon.
A natural phenomenon. Northern Lights.
Ooh, pretty. A desire, noun.
A desire noun. Love.
All right. And a noun?
Dog.
Okay, all right, hang on, just finishing this up. This sounds very, very. Are you ready to hear your short story?
Yes.
Okay. The title is The Clear Spell That Changed Bunnies. Long ago, in a world divided by philosophy and ruled by a quick authoritarian, there was a slow caster named Peter. Unlike other fairies, Peter had a talent for summoning forests from caves. One day, while searching for a dark relic, Peter stumbled into the eerie realm of dragons, a place where the geyser whispered secrets and the talismans burned with excitement. Their mission? To save protesters from an exuberant fate. But there was one problem. The cat of philosophy stood in their way. To defeat it, Peter had to harness the power of their nose, speak the forbidden bunnies, and confront the heavy truths they had buried deep in their religion. With every step, the air grew dim and the line between good and evil blurred. As the northern lights raged, Peter faced his ultimate trial, choosing between love and the wonderful love they'd found with dogs. In the end, Peter's spell echoed through the forest, leaving a legacy of philosophy and religion. The end.
It's ironic how all the animals seem to go together. Cats, bunnies, and dogs.
Cats, bunnies, and dogs. Well, thank you so much for putting up with me for that.
That was a fun little exercise.
That was a fun little exercise. Things like that, I find if you're ever stuck and just or bored or just don't know what you want to do, sometimes just doing a little fill in the blank word prompt can get the words flowing, and get that flow of consciousness instinct kind of sparking. So that's Story Sparks. Thank you so much. And let's look at the comments right quick. I think that we saw, Tiara's here. She says hi. Hi, Tiara.
Hello, Tiara.
And if you're liking the podcast, go ahead and you can drop a comment and say hi. We'll say hi back. We're friendly. Okay, so let's get into the interview properly. I am going to start with, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, ML has written, among other things, a book called Dead Caster. And we are treated to the trailer for that book in 3, 2, 1.
In the ashes of a global catastrophe that tore open the veil between worlds, humanity now lives alongside monsters, vampires, hellhounds, and worse. As civil unrest brews beneath the surface, peace is a fragile illusion. Devin Edwin Allen Durham knows all about illusions. Born into a prestigious wizarding family with a dirty little secret, he is believed to be powerless, but there have been clues to his hidden dark magic, and his ruthless mother couldn't allow the disgrace of having a child with a genetic defect to become known in her political circles. When a college prank spirals into disaster, betrayal cuts to the bone. Branded by those who want him dead and exiled to enemy warlock territory, Devin is left with nothing but powers he doesn't understand. Perfect for fans of paranormal fantasy, this new adult tale explores magic, betrayal, and love in a broken, monstrous world.
So that was the trailer for Dead Caster. I have to say, I haven't finished it yet, but what I've read so far, like I was saying, I am a terrible DNFer. If I get halfway through the first chapter and I just don't like it, I put it down. I can't put this book down. Like, the plot is just, the pacing is really great. I really like your lyrical style. I have nothing but positive things to say about this. And I think in terms of a contemporary fantasy, that it's just really well written. And one of the things that, aside from the other elements like plot and Devin's character, which is, he's starting to develop as a character on the page for me, but I'm not terribly far in yet. One of the things that I really like is feeling like this world is very much a recreation of Roman society with all of the artifacts, the religious artifacts, like the goddesses and the gods, and the almost like stepping into a retelling of the myths that the Roman deities. And I think that you've done a very clever job of lacing all of these different stories and mythologies into your world, but also it's also got a sense of being very modern. I'm pretty sure at one point, I don't remember what you called it, but I think you were referencing the Hallmark Channel, the Once Upon a Time channel. There's a sense of being very modern. There's a very playful style and playfulness with culture to your writing, which I love picking out all the different little modern pop culture trivia bits in it. So that's just for me. From what I've read so far, that's what I've really liked about it. So let me get out my interview questions right quick. All right, and I'm going to grill you about it. So your first book, Dead Caster, came out on March 15th, The Eyes of March 2024. Can you share with readers what they can expect from this debut?
Well, it is really a book about it's taking the world we're living in today and merging it into a fantasy world, and trying to give the message that, this is, if we do not change some of the things that's going on in our world today, we could end up in a world much like the world that Devin finds himself in Dead Caster.
So it's a very cautionary tale in one sense. Yes, I definitely got that impression from it, from what I've read so far. There's elements of different oppressive regimes that have started to, authoritarian regimes, totalitarian regimes that are showing up. Very, very cleverly, very subtly and cleverly done in the script. So we have a question from a member of the audience. Tiara wants to know, what was your favorite part about writing Deadcaster?
Well, I, the my favorite part was being able to find, I would be sitting here watching the news night after night, feeling hopeless. And, and I needed a way to try to say, how I was feeling, plus try to give a commentary to people who are in marginalized groups on, you know, things things may look bad now, but there can always be light at the end of the tunnel.
That's beautiful. So, and that kind of goes into my next couple of questions. So Devin starts the story as someone who's been deeply hurt by an abusive relationship. He doesn't really shine until he finds his strength later on in the book. So we obviously have been trained by social media, by television, by a lot of the media outlets to have shorter attention spans. And we have a culture of DNF culture, for example, did not finish culture, which is when you pick up a book and put it down, which, as I said, I'm notorious at. But so knowing all of that, how did you navigate creating a character who takes his time, who starts in a very dark place and takes his time throughout the course of the book to come into his own?
Okay. It was really, Devin is a very weak person in the beginning of the story. He is, he feels useless. He's doing something that he does not want to do, but he feels helpless to control any aspect of his life. So what I tried to do was to weave humor into the story so that it would try to keep the readers engaged through the humor, and to be able to make this world interesting enough that the reader would say, I've got to figure out what's going to happen to him. It's the world. It's kind of the world building that tries to keep the story moving, because, Devin's like any other human who's been abused and neglected. He, his story is not, does not start at the most wonderful spot. And to get to where Devin shines, you've got to get the reader to move past that. I know there's ways of telling stories, and I'm going to butcher the word of the Machiavelli, where you start a story somewhere in the you don't start it in the beginning, you start it in the middle.
Oh, in medias res, yeah.
Right. So I didn't want to, I thought it was more potent of a story to actually show it in chronological order for Devin. So that's why I really had to struggle to find ways to, to keep the reader engaged long enough for them to get to the parts to where Devin starts, showing that he's not useless. He's not a nothing, because in the beginning, even his mother thinks that he's useless.
Yeah, she's a treat, isn't she?
And the only people that he has around him use him for who he knows, not because they really want to be friends with him.
Yeah, it doesn't. He just strikes me as a very lonely person. Not only lonely and neglected, but also in this very magical world, he has very limited powers. And I think that. But I think that that being said, like I am feeling very much swept up in this story. And you said you use humor, and Devin, despite everything, is sarcastic, which I absolutely love in a character. Another quality that he and Sebastian share is that way of looking at a very dire situation with, tongue planted firmly in cheek. And
Yeah.
also, like I said, the pacing and the plot and just the magical world that you've created, even though it's not even that slow, because you get pretty quickly into like an escalation um,
Mhm.
of events. But like there's so much going on within the world itself that I'm entertained by feeling like I'm immersed in a world that is part magical, part Roman mythology. Like it feels very much
Mhm.
like if Roman society collided with the modern world, collided with like,
Mhm.
paranormal creatures. Like it's
Mhm.
very well written. And I especially love that Devin, like I started the podcast today with that little dream sequence we had. So
Mhm. Mhm.
so he's obviously got something going on with his
Mhm.
magical powers. Um,
And plus, I tried to use humor when it came with characters' name. Like
yeah.
you'll find a character named Peter Pussy Willow. You know.
And there's and you have like you're very much like each of the sort of the species of creatures
Mhm.
has a very like you can tell like Gur Martin can put so much work into having the names of his characters in Game of Thrones associated with particular houses. You've done the same thing with this, with the different
Mhm.
species and with the different characters. Like, I mean, you can just tell it's a well crafted, well curated link. Words have been curated very carefully. The world has been
Mhm.
curated to give the reader the feeling of being somewhere else. And I love escapist stories like that. Getting back to Devin's character arc. So for me, and through the conversations that we've had about this book, I feel like this book is for anybody who suffered at the hands of somebody else's cruelty, and there's human stupidity. Do you agree with that? And if so, how do you think Devin's character arc reflects that statement?
Yes, I would have to agree with that. And, I know that we as authors are always trying to say, no, I didn't put any of myself you know, into to those characters. But, you know, I grew up in a time when, in the height of the AIDS epidemic, when there
Mhm.
was, when all gay men were being oppressed, you
Mhm.
know, and anyone who did have HIV was, discriminated against.
Mhm.
I grew up in a time when, uh, lots of families sent their children to conversion therapy camps to pray the gay away, So, you know, I really had to pull from a lot of those past traumas, from living in a rural part of the United States and Devon is, even though I personally had parents who loved me, they may not have uh, liked the choices I made in my sexuality. They loved me. Devon, on the other hand, was not so fortunate. So,
Sorry, I'm back.
Okay.
So obviously, like your history and your life was an inspiration for
Right.
writing not only the society that Devin finds himself in, but also the character of Devin himself.
Right.
So let's get into a little bit about what I would consider the political and social satire aspects of Deadcaster. So you said that one of the things that you point out at the beginning of your book is this world exists because the boundaries between different realms, between vampires and werewolves, has dissolved because of global warming. But how does the society in Deadcaster speak about global warming?
Okay. Well, it's in the story. There are 4 parallel worlds,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the worlds is the human world, and they're the ones that's got the problem of global warming.
Mm-hmm.
Then the other world is the magical world, dealing with like the witches and the wizards and the sorcerers and the warlocks.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is the world of the fae, the silly and the unsilly fae. And then there's the underworld that's got the demons and the and Hades.
Mm-hmm.
So and when it was determined that the humans were causing a major catastrophe to be ready to happen,
Mm-hmm.
the magical realms tried to talk with the humans. Well, the humans, as humans do, it's kind of like, the 4 worlds are kind of like parallels to our society. You've
Mm-hmm.
got the ones who say there's no such thing as global warming. I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
Then you've got the people who are saying global warming is real. We need to correct it, but until you can convince the ones in power to allow those changes to be put in place, we're still going down the route of global warming. And then, of course, you've got like the underworld world, and the demons are kind of like the corporation setting back, thinking, oh, how can we profit from all the destructions? In this case, the demons are like, just think of how many new souls we're going to get to process due to all these catastrophes and stuff. So, all these are parallels, as
Mm-hmm.
representations of how what we as humans are facing right now when it comes to global warming. It's just they're viewed as different worlds. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, it never ceases to strike me as how wonderfully you recreated and observed and satirized modern and contemporary culture within your book. And then going back to, I think Tiara had asked you about what was your favorite thing about writing about it. You had mentioned the news. I want to go back to that for a second. So contemporary issues such as book banning, bathroom and sports debates involving trans people, or the harmful rhetoric of labeling gay people as groomers. How did those things, I think that those were the things playing on the television when you were writing Deadcaster. How did
yes.
those influence you in the narrative?
Well, Kentucky has our political gubernatorial races a year before the presidential races. So in Kentucky, presidential races start 2 years before is actual time.
Wow.
And plus, you've got a year's worth of gubernatorial races. And every time you turn on the TV, you're watching political commercials about, uh, you know, this party's going to have groomers and they are, allowing, 6 years old to go to school, as a boy and come home a girl. Yeah. And,
Those were the political ads in Kentucky?
yes,
Wow.
those were political ads. Those were political ads in Kentucky and stuff. And,
Oh my God.
so, and, because because I'm gay and
Mhm.
I want to write about LGBTQ characters,
Mhm.
I was thinking, when I actually publish something, will it even be allowed to be on a bookshelf? I grew up in a time, due to my age, where I saw no representation on television. I
Mhm.
read I read no representation in the books I read. You
Mhm.
know, I had to use my imagination when watching a television show, a movie, or reading a book. I had to try to use my imagination to change those genders to be able to see myself in
Mhm.
any story. So, you know, and I lived through the the 70s with the awakening,
Mhm.
all the love, peace, and harmony. I
Right.
lived through all the debates about uh, women's rights and civil rights and
Mhm.
gay rights. And, I thought I had gotten to a point to where things were better, you know?
Mm.
And then
You mean today that
suddenly,
things are better, like, within the last 5 or 10 years?
well, I
Mm.
meant for me from when I was a child to
Okay.
where I was at a few years ago, I
Okay.
thought that society had grown and
Mhm.
that, you know, not everybody likes everybody, but
Sure.
at least we were tolerating each other a little bit more,
Right.
and there were some guardrails put in place as to, how one should or shouldn't treat other human beings. But then
Mhm.
suddenly it's like the guardrails got taken down, and
Mm.
it became say what you want, as hateful as you want,
Yeah.
and you know, and that was when I was like, I'm like, how can I write a book to show people that are younger than I am, is that even if it looks bleak,
Mhm.
that there can be change. It might
Mhm.
be bleak now, but
Right.
it can be changed, because I lived through a time, if I wanted to go to, as a kid, if I wanted to go to a gay bar just to socialize with people and dance and have a good time, I
Mhm.
would have to I would have to dodge the people passing by on the street throwing beer bottles at us.
Mm.
And I thought we had
Yeah.
passed that. I thought we had passed I thought we had gotten past that, but,
Mm.
sometimes when I see the machine gun shooting up beer bottles on YouTube, I'm like, "Maybe we haven't quite got past that yet."
It's yeah, it's a little disheartening to see what feels like progress on the passage of the the amendment allowing gay marriage.
Mhm.
And even like going as far back as Roe versus Wade and having all of that overturned,
Mhm.
and having the kind of blatant disregard for people who are different from you in society, and the almost lauding who can be the most despicable when it comes to describing other people. And I think that the people like yourself, and I would say I would put myself in this group as well, who would just rather people could tolerate each other. You don't have to like each other. You don't have to like participate in what other people are doing. You don't have to be like them. But can you be human beings to each other and treat, going back to the golden rule, which is the kind of the core of every religion out there, which is we're all connected to each other, treat each other like equals. And I think that it becomes a revenge game at some point for everybody. It doesn't matter like what side that you're on. You have the human tendency to want to get back at people who've hurt you. And go ahead.
It would be the same as if some people would think is, let's say you had one Christian denomination and another Christian denomination, and if because both denominations thought they were the only ones correct, they made it a campaign to try to wipe out the other one,
Yeah, I think that happened a couple of times.
Yeah. But a lot when I was writing the book, and I did a mixed media painting on the subject about the German poem about first they came for.
Yep.
The poem.
Let's look that up right quick, because I think that's a first. Do you remember who wrote that? I think I found it. Martin Niemöller.
Yeah.
I'm going to read that right quick, just in case people would like to. It's a very good poem. So it was written by, I guess, a little bit of history. Lutheran pastor in Germany in the 20s and early 30s. He sympathized with many Nazi ideas and supported radically right-wing political movements. But after Adolf Hitler came to power in 1933, Niemöller became an outspoken critic of Hitler's interference with the Protestant church. He spent the last 8 years of Nazi rule from 1937 to 1945 in Nazi prisons and concentration camps. He is best remembered for his post-war statement, which began, "First they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me." And you know what? That strikes me very much, going back to the card that you pulled, the page of wands, that calling out. I'm in this position, Yeah. I'm in this position. Help.
Yeah.
And I think that you're not only you're healing. You're not only saying, help. We need help, but also like you've experienced this and worse before, so that you can bring to the narrative for anybody who's younger than you and who's afraid of what's going on in our society. This hope, this strand of starlight in your story. Do you agree with that? Is that?
Yes, I most certainly do. It's, there's without hope, there's got to be hope, or there's no reason, and within the trans community and gay youth, suicide is such a problem. But if we can give them hope,
there are communities who will accept them.
Right.
Look
for that found family. You may not be born into that family, but look for the found family, because there are people who will love you no matter what color you dye your hair, no matter what pronouns you want to use. There will be a found family that will accept you.
I absolutely. It's such a beautiful message wrapped in such an intriguing and compelling story. I realize that we've gone a little bit dark here, a little bit like on the heavier side of things. So I think that it's a very good time for Miss Maribel to pop
Okay.
in and lighten our moods just a little bit with her feline catty wisdom.
Ugh. Mirabelle, I'm stuck. Every story idea feels flat. Help me out here?
The timeless writer's lament. Woe is me, I cannot make words do the thing. You mortals are so exhausting.
Okay, but you're the one who always claims to be an oracle of infinite wisdom, so prove it.
Prove it. Dreamweaver, I am the embodiment of storytelling perfection. Observe as I weave you a masterpiece from thin air.
Oh, this I have to hear.
Picture this. A daring young cat, feline, finds herself at the center of a grand heist. The target? The legendary golden can of eternal tuna.
Okay, go on.
She's clever, resourceful, devastatingly beautiful, naturally, and she must outwit a league of villainous dogs who guard the treasure. The tension builds as she sneaks past their salivary jaws, using only her charm and an impeccably timed hairball.
A hairball? Really?
It's a metaphor. Try to keep up. The hairball represents, I don't know, human frailty, or whatever it is you people love to dissect in stories. Anyway, our hero secures the treasure, saves the day, and, most importantly, looks flawless doing it.
So, basically you want me to write a heist novel starring you?
Oh, don't be ridiculous. My story couldn't possibly be contained in a mere novel. This is an epic. A trilogy, at least. With a prequel.
Right. Of course.
But if you must write about humans, here's the secret. Add a cat to every story. Instant depth, immediate charm, and readers who feel intellectually superior for recognizing the metaphor. You're welcome.
You're unbelievable.
I'm unforgettable. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have an appointment with the Sunbeam. Don't ruin my legacy, darling.
Well, we can all walk away from that feeling a little bit less superior, I think.
So when is the trilogy with the heist of the golden can of tunas
The
coming
Eternal
out?
Can of Tuna. When is that coming out? I would expect that in 2020, never. But I'm sure that if she ever does learn to type anything but gibberish, it might come out sooner. So yeah, we love Maribel. Don't. She is such a sweetie. I was thinking that you have pets. Let's take a little break from the serious side of things. You have a dog, 2 dogs.
I have 2 dogs.
2 dogs. Tell us a little bit about your kids.
Okay. The oldest one is about 13 years old. His name is Buster.
Buster.
And Buster was bought. My sister-in-law worked as a nurse at a local hospital, and one of the nurses that she worked with bought Buster. He's half Pekingese and half Yorkie, and and she bought Buster for her little boy.
Mm.
And unfortunately, her little boy ended up being allergic to dogs.
Oh no. But that was disappointing.
So, so she gave Buster to my sister-in-law and brother,
Mm-hmm.
and they already had another male dog, a little Shih Tzu,
Mm.
and Buster and the Shih Tzu hated each other,
Oh no.
absolutely hated each other, and at the time we were all trying to care for my father who had had a stroke
Mm.
here within uh, the house, and my brother and sister-in-law was living in the house at the time, and I lived a couple of houses up. And so Buster, every time it was my shifts to take care of my father, Buster loved me. I mean,
No.
and my sister-in-law kept trying to get me to take him,
Yeah.
but I, due to personal reasons, I didn't take him because I didn't feel like I could take him.
Mm.
So one day Buster had enough of his bully, so he slipped outside and he spent the night fending off the coyotes.
Oh my. And he's not a big dog
No,
either.
he's a very tiny little itty bitty dog.
He fits in your
So
pocket.
so so I had spent the next day in the woods trying to find him in the woods, crying, thinking that he was dead, that
Oh.
because lots of people in this area lose dogs and cats to the coyotes and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. You can hear them at night. For anybody who
Yeah.
doesn't know that sound, it is you can hear them here as well. It's something else.
So but then later after I had given up and thought he's gone, it's all my fault. If I'd have just taken him, then a cousin that lived on my street about 2 miles up the road put a Facebook page post that says, "Has anybody lost this dog?"
Oh, he made it 2 miles up the road on those little legs. That's
Yeah.
incredible.
So I went up to get him, and my sister-in-law and brother knew that he was never coming back home to them. So he has been my dog ever since.
Aww.
He loves me. He loves my husband when I'm not around. But
yes.
if I'm not around, he thinks my husband is just the greatest thing under the but
otherwise he's the spare.
Right, but if I'm around, then if my husband pets him, he's like growls,
Oh, Buster. Oh my God.
When I used to go to work, we have a doggy door,
Mm-hmm.
and a fenced in area. So when I would go to work of a morning, he would run out the doggy door, watch my vehicle going down the street, and then he would run back in and cuddle up to my husband and it's like, love me.
Okay.
Then when I get home, it's just like, I want nothing to do with you.
Just kidding. He sounds very
neurotic.
There we go. Did he happen to make it into any of your? I know that Deadcaster isn't the only series that you're working on right now. Did Buster make an appearance, a cameo in any of your stories so far?
He's not made any cameos.
Not yet. Okay.
No, not yet. And then the other, my husband, when we started seeing each other, he had two two Chihuahuas,
Oh, okay.
a mother and a daughter,
Uh-huh.
and unfortunately, his oldest Chihuahua passed when she was 19,
Oh, wow.
and then a year and a half later, uh, the daughter passed away when she was like 18.
My goodness. They really lived quite a long life
Right.
for a small animal. Wow.
And so David, needed his own dog.
Of course. Well, especially if Buster being so hot and cold with him.
Yeah. So we adopted Angel at an animal shelter,
Mhm.
and she, as far as we can tell, if we're reading the story correctly, Angel was given up by like an 85-year-old man who
Oh.
could no longer take care of her.
No.
And she's about 4 or 5, and she's mostly Chihuahua,
Mm-hmm.
and her, like Buster, they both came with the names Buster and Angel. So it would be about like if somebody adopted me now and then tried to change my name to Bert. I was just like, who's this Bert?
Who's Bert? Yeah.
Yeah.
Bert and Ernie.
But it is David and I take on different roles with Angel.
Mm-hmm.
He's the I. He takes me out. He feeds me.
Yeah.
I'm the one I'm going to snuggle up and sleep close to, and I'm the he's the one who likes to play, and he's the one that I'm going to he's the one that lets me bite at him whenever he's playing.
Oh yeah, you're the
I'm the fun dad.
fun dad, yeah. You're the one that lets him get away with stuff. I honestly, I have a soft spot in my heart for Chihuahuas. My grandmother had one, and of course, every Christmas, she had 4 or 5 children who all had children. So we'd all gather at grandma's house for Christmas, and my family only lived half an hour away, so we'd go there a lot. But it was inevitable that my cousins and I would get up to no good. And we'd get one of the adults pissed off at us, and they would start, yelling. And that dog, her name was Candy. She couldn't have been bigger than a shoe. But the second any of the adults started yelling at the kids, she went right for their ankle, right for the parents' ankle every time. I love that dog so much. Candy, as long as I live and breathe, Candy will have a home in my heart. She was incredible. Loved her to
She
pieces.
was like Superman's
crypto. Yeah. Don't you yell at those children. Like, just don't. I don't know. Like, she hated it. She was she was parenting the parents. It was perfect. We loved her. We gave her, she got so fat over the years just from the scraps that we would give her, because she was our hero. She was our protector. She was that tall, But yeah, so I not all Chihuahuas. I think that some of them can be a little temperamental, but when they do it towards people you don't like, it works out really well.
Yeah. Angel, I'm also the pushover when it comes to like feeding her things that she really shouldn't have.
Oh yeah, you're the softie.
So she's getting fatter and fatter, and David is like, you are taking her to the vet and explaining why this dog is so overweight. And I'm like, I'll just tell them that you're lying. It's really you.
You're not I have this image of this like potato with wings on it the wings can't quite lift up. Angel, try as she might.
Yeah.
She's just been fed too many treats and she only gets like an inch off of the ground. Like that's what I see in my head when I think of Angel.
I
I've
don't
seen
think
Buster.
Red Wing would his wings would even get her off the ground.
Yeah, just try.
Yeah.
You know, it's such a cute effort, but it's just like ridiculous, right? It's like penguin wings,
Yeah.
about as useful.
Mm.
Okay.
I would show you them, but after surgery, I'm not allowed to pick up things. So,
Oh yeah, no,
so that's
you're
why I
fine.
can't. So that's why I
I'll
can't
narrate.
pick up dogs and show you.
Oh, maybe next time. Maybe we'll get a Buster cameo next time. Up Tiara says, "I love Buster." And she's got a question for. Oh, it looks like a question for both of us. Are you ready? What are the hardest parts about your current work in progress? Oh, man. ML, you go first.
Okay. My current work in progress is trying to make sure that my current work in progress is finishing up a novella series that I have, and it's dealing with fae and changelings, and I'm just trying to make sure that I give it a proper ending.
I actually have the same challenge with the Love Spell Murders, which is in the final stages and is being launched next month. I knew that the ending there's something wrong with it. And I've spent the last week going over and over, and because it's a mystery where a lot of different elements contend to tie together at the end. So, it's one of those things where the ending has to land perfectly. And I've been so worried about it. But I over the last couple of days, I think I've figured out how to draw all of those pieces back into the ending. And I'm really confident that when Kaufman, who's editing the final draft, he does such an amazing job. By the way, after this stream, there's a link in the discussion or in the description if you want to go check out the Right Now Saturday Critique Show with Jared Kaufman. He does an awesome job of editing. He's the one I use. So, and he does short excerpts that he reads online, and then he'll critique them. So that's a really fun way to spend a Saturday if you can't get enough of that writing podcast vibe. So go check that out right after the show. That's my plug. And I absolutely 100% stand beside him as an editor. Yeah. I think that has given me a lot of confidence in what I write too, and putting it out there, because it's very nice to have like somebody have a second pair of eyes who knows grammar stuffs, which I'm not. I'm very creative, but I don't necessarily like always know the names of how I'm screwing up the text. So it's very great to have an editor to give you that sort of confidence with it. But also, yeah, I mean, the hardest part has been the ending for me, and I hope that when it comes out, people love it. But yeah, also sometimes getting back into things as well. Oh my God, another question. How do you all feel about implementing feedback you get, or go about implementing feedback? Do you want to take that one, Emma?
Well, the feedback that I get, from my beta readers and stuff is I look through all their suggestions, and, there are times where I totally agree, and I make changes accordingly. And there have been times where I have said, I'm going to leave that section in because I think it's relevant to the story. And I'm thinking of Deadcaster in particular, that, because once I was told, I really think that you should take this part out because it's a little too controversial. You may hurt somebody's feelings over that. And, and I decided that I would leave that section in because it's relevant. It's how a lot of people react, So
Mhm.
therefore, but, I take all my feedback from my beta readers and I look at what I think can improve the story. And if I feel like it's not going to, as far as reviews, I'm going to be one of these people that uh, says, I'm not going to worry about negative reviews because my story is not going to be for everybody. And
Mhm.
sometimes people who that story is not their cup of tea
Mhm.
reads it anyway. So then they feel like even though they knew they should have not read the book, feel the
Mhm.
need to say, I hated that thing, this is a
How
pile of trash.
how dare you write a book that's not for me? Yeah,
Right.
that's kind of the so you've touched on quite a few things here that I agree with. In terms of critiques and feedback from other readers, absolutely know who your feedback is coming from. In some cases, I think that I've gotten feedback from people who presume that I am writing a different story than I am. Very though that story, you have to decide whether or not you want to write the story you want to write, or you want to write the integrity. You have to decide at what level of integrity you have as an artist, and what level that you're willing to forego that to write a story that might resonate with different people, or might for me, especially as a poet, I had a lot of difficulty translating my more esoteric verse into something that people would understand. So with prose, one of the things that I've had to learn to do is be more readable and understood
Right.
by my audience, and likable. So I do particular things. Like every artist does particular things to make sure that their readers will follow them along on the story. I tend to draw from a lot of cinema and entertainment aspects. I get a little bit showmanshipy with my story. My characters tend to kind of have particular over the top streaks. And I also like to write very rapidly paced plots. So, I mean,
Yeah.
there are particular things that I do intentionally to keep readers' attention so that they'll keep paying attention while I get to the point of my story, which is, towards the end. But I think that, like I said before, having an editor who understood that about my writing and has helped me immensely in crafting legible books for a broader audience. I think that in the first version, the Chura's Requiem, I think like if there were 99 edits that he had made, and it was more than that, I think there was only one that I didn't accept. I accepted everything else. And you really have to, and that came from trust. That came from me learning through our relationship how to trust how he gave critiques and how he understood my book. So if somebody understands your book, even if they don't like it, if they understand it and understand what you're trying to say, they will give you good feedback, actionable feedback. This part doesn't make sense. Can you make it more clear? Is this the word you mean? That kind of helpful feedback. Always pay attention to that. If they simply don't like it, then I mean, like there's like you said, it was recommended to you by some an opinion. That's not necessarily fact. And you decided in this case that you would not be censoring yourself because you felt like it was too important to the story.
Right.
Absolutely. Oh, and Tiara's got one more for us. And I guess in the same vein, how do you know your story is officially finished? Oh God. It's never finished. It just gets published at some point.
On Deadcaster, and I agree with you. We as writers we can we could edit for 100 years trying to make the story perfect. But when I decided that Deadcaster was ready was when I was told by someone who was helping me, this story is as good as a lot of the books I read from Kindle.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's is my book William Shakespeare? No.
Is any?
Is
Is any?
uh, you know, is my book, going to be uh the next Stephen King? No, but I'm not writing for that particular audience. I'm writing for someone who uh, needs a particular, needs that message of, you know, we will get through this, we will get through this, and that message is written in fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
And where all my fantasy books that I write are going to have gay uh gay male, or not necessarily male, but gay leads as the main characters and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that my book is not going to be for everyone's cup of tea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as far as that goes, like, I know that a lot of the conversations that I've been in with LGBTQ plus writers has been like, they feel like they're catering to a particular sector, the LGBT
Yeah.
readership. And for me, like, what you've written has so many different things going on in it. Like, I'll read anything. So let me just qualify by saying
Right.
I'm pan literary, but
Yeah.
I didn't find it necessarily to be I don't want to say a detriment, or, like it's not my
Right.
cup of tea, simply because the main character was gay. I also write gay characters, though.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not like I'm trying to say this in language that isn't offensive, but I'm not offended by the fact that there's a gay
Right.
lead.
Yeah.
And it actually, like, it's interesting to read that kind of character, because that's one that's, gay characters usually aren't represented in literature. So it's fun to read that. But it's also like, I don't see it as being a LGBTQ book. I see it as being a fantasy, a fantasy about a story about somebody who is an outsider within his culture.
Right.
And I think that it transcends sort of like the marginal character ideology, because he represents, in a way, all outsiders. Like those the archetype of the outsider. You can see that in Devin. So, like, I relate to him on that level.
Right. I think that might be part of my own personal fears and struggles, trying to make sure that I don't offend the book banners, because if I label it as a gay book, then if somebody's little darling picks it up and goes, "Oh my God,"
I think that labeling it as gay literature is definitely an act of, like, this is what I am. This is what I write. This is the kind of thing that I'm going to be writing. This has got, because it's such it's not, we don't live in a society that's just, like, inherently cool with shit. So, like, I think that there's an element of, like, identifying it isn't necessarily like putting the pink triangle on it. It's saying that this is what this is, and I'm proud of that. But for me, like, I don't, in terms of, like, what kind of stories I like good stories. And Deadcaster to me is just a good story that I'm enjoying the hell out of reading. So that's kind of where I am at with it. And I feel a little bit disappointed for people who feel like they have to pigeonhole themselves in any particular genre. Because I'm also genre fluid. And so I'm just like, I just wanted to say that about the book too. It's not just, about, this, it's about the struggles of anybody who sees themselves as an outsider. It touches on an emotional core within my human-y little heart. So I've really, like I said, I've really enjoyed reading it for that reason. But I
really don't see myself. I said that I really do not see myself as writing to trend. I write what I feel needs to be told,
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that what your readers will walk away, what I think that you want your readers to walk away with, and what I'm getting the feeling of, just having read it so far, is this sense of like, catastrophe happens, tragedy happens. Human society is, in a lot of ways, fucking ridiculous. And there is a way, the fact that you take a character to navigate the worst aspects of that, I think really resonates with a lot of people from a lot of different walks of life who've had to put up with some seriously exaggerated BS in their life. So there's definitely that, like you said, that thread of hopefulness and that thread of making it to the other side of the story that really comes through with your writing. And I think it's also, and going back to Tiara's question right quick, you said that you're writing this because you want to get it out there and published. There's a timeliness to it. And I think that one of the I don't understand why people don't read anything that wasn't written, was only written in the last 5 years, because I think that there's some really wonderful artifacts of culture. Like, books can take a photograph and words of a particular time and a particular place. And I think that that's very obvious in your work, that it represents not only the kind of the stupidity of people in large groups that the United States is experiencing at this point, and that intolerance towards people, but also that hopefulness as well. You can look back 20 years from now as a historian, I say this with confidence, that you can say that there is, if you look at ML Claxon's work, Deadcaster, you see very evident what kind of society people were living in that time. And I think that's when you know that the book is finished, is when you've said something, like in your case, when you've said something about the society you've written. For me, it's when I know it's done, when I've written the book, I know I wanted to write. And my editor says it's cool. So I wanted to ask you, though, before, we've got to wrap it up, we've got about 20 minutes left. Did you have any excerpts that you wanted to read from Deadcaster for us?
If you don't care, I
would absolutely love it if you did. I'm gonna scooch off.
Do you want lighthearted or do you want serious?
Oh my gosh! Can you do? Oh, I go. I don't know. We keep going lighthearted and serious. Was that serious or was that lighthearted? It's, you know what? If let's do something serious. Let's do. If you got time, you can do a serious one, and then we'll end it on a light note. How does that sound?
Okay.
Okay. So I'm gonna let me pull up your beautiful book cover.
Once I arrived at the Judicial Arbitration Inquisition Lodge, they took me to a holding cell and removed the handcuffs. As they shackled me to a table, they sat me in the most uncomfortable chair, and I considered that this chair had to be my punishment. As I sat, I began thinking about my mother was going to have them slap me on the wrists from the way they treated me so far. But within 30 minutes of waiting, the door swung open, smacking the wall as my mother waltzed into the room, flanked by two very apprehensive witches. They both jumped as my mother slammed her hands on the table. I can't even stand to look at you, Devon. You're such a disappointment to me. As a result, I lowered my head and stared at the table as she continued her rant. She spat. Brutus Blakely informed me you dragged poor little Dolores into this unholy mess, and she didn't even know what you were planning. I am ashamed of having an inferior wizard like you in my family. Nevertheless, I peered up into my mother's face, which had grown a fiery red from her overwhelming anger, and said, "She planned the attack, not me." My mother slapped my face. Then tears began streaming down my cheeks. "That is enough of your lies. I will not let you ruin mine and your father's lives so you are to say nothing to anyone during the Inquisition." She motioned for the witches to come forward as she said, "I need for you to give him the phial of Altered Minds potion." Then administered the Dishonor Among Thieves spell. The witches stumbled forward as one almost fell and the other witch had to grab her, to catch her, as my mother turned to them and questioned, "Have I made myself clear?" They were both nodding their heads as I concluded what was happening sank in. So I asked, "What is going to happen to me?" My mother snapped, "You're going to do as I say and keep your mouth shut." One witch pulled out a glowing potion with bright swirls of blue and silver that was pulsating rhythmically. Soon my heartbeat began keeping time with its rhythm. The other witch grabbed my face and forcibly opened my mouth with her gnarled, filthy fingers as the other one poured the contents of the potion down my throat. When the witch let loose of my face, I was gagging from the foul taste and sputtered, "What was in that?" One witch chuckled and said, "It's just an hallucinogenic made from seer sage, devil's trumpet, and several varieties of dark wood mushrooms." I turned to peer at my mother, but she was talking on her phone and didn't even look in my direction. I screamed, "Why are you having them do this to me?" She snapped her fingers at one of the witches, uh, stuffing. She snapped her fingers as one witch stuffed a foul tasting cloth gag into my mouth. Then the witches chanted the spell my mother had requested. "For if the feeble mind is troubled, surely the pester shall be doubled. Round about your mind it grows, in twisted thoughts it does know. From your lips will come pure evil, until you have deceived the legal. Now your mouth shall be locked, awaiting a brew from a warlock. They clapped their hands, and my mind became clouded in a mental fog of confusion. My lips grew warm and my tongue stiffened as my jaws ached in pain. My mouth refused to work when I tried to scream. As I turned to glance at my mother, she wore a devilish smile. I wanted to tell her how wrong she was to have this done to me, but all rational comprehension flew from my drug-addled mind. Now, for the lighthearted part of the story. This one was a really short reading, so. Lysander wasn't very talkative on our way to the palace, although he was trying to put on a pleasant smile. So I placed my hand on his thigh and said, "Relax. I'm sure I'll be the one that everyone will be gawking at this evening." Then, in an overtly animated movements and an exuberant accent, I said, "Oh, look over there at the poor dead boy. Such a pity that his mother had to suffer through all those years of raising such an ungrateful demonic child. It's just too bad they didn't have those camps when he was a boy." Lysander snapped, "Stop that. You know you're not evil." I laughed and said, "Damn, I left the necromancer's agenda at the house. However will I indoctrinate the children tonight?" Lysander smiled and said, "I take it back. You are pure evil." That's
Thank you for that.
okay.
Thank you for that. So that was Deadcaster by ML Claxon. If you want, the link to it is I got the Kindle version. You can buy it for, I think, $2.99. It's very reasonably priced on Amazon. And you can follow him as an author on Amazon, or his social media links. ML's social media links are also in the description, so you can follow him on social media to get updates, to see when we get, there it is, Deadcaster. And I think that you have a sequel planned, if I'm correct, for 2025, perhaps.
Yes, I am working on the sequel. Right now, the working title is "Still Dead," is the working title right now, and it is a continuation of Devon's adventures and trying to continue to become a fully fledged necromancer in a world that does not always agree with, talking and dealing with the dead.
The dead have rights too, don't they know?
Yeah.
I love that. I love we brought up November 1st is my birthday. So, I love me a good necromancer story.
Yeah.
So that's ML Claxon. Deadcaster came out in March of this year. Still Dead comes out in 2025. And you're working on a different Changeling series too, I believe. All of which are available at Amazon. And I think that's almost all the time we have for today. Thank you very much, ML, for agreeing to come on this show. You've been a treat. writer, LGBQT writer, and I think probably professional smartass.
Yes.
ML Claxon.
I am, I have been called a smartass on more than one occasion.
I can't see why. I cannot imagine why. Thank you so much for showing up. I hope you come back. I'm going to leave you if you are interested. Yes, thank you. We're not worthy. We're not worthy. I'm going to leave with a short downer excerpt from Datura's Requiem. If you would like to download that, the link is in the description. Datura's Requiem is always free. Thank you very much once more. This has been Aether and Ink. We'll see you next Saturday.
Where's the White Knight? He's wading through black shadows, his armor dull, his lantern dim. The ghosts have stole the light from him.
Where's the white steed? It's tangled in dark brambles, its hooves sunk deep, its breath gone cold. The shadows whisper tales untold.
Where's the fair child? She's counting all lost hours. Her hands are stained with midnight's hue. The clock strikes 12. What will she do?
Where's the bright sun? It's hiding in black hollows. The moon can't bear to show its face. The night still walks. He's lost the race.
Where's the White Knight? He's wading through black shadows. His armor cracked, his courage thin. But still he fights, and still he sins.